Welcome to Mixing Like a Pro. This is Dami. Today is a different video on how to mix drums from your drum bus all the way to the individual tracks. Let me show you how you can add weight and movement and character to your drum sound. So let's jump right into Pro Tools here. Alright, so here we are in Pro Tools. And I'm going to play you just the drum sound, and then we're going to dissect exactly my process and what I did. Just quick notes too, most of the things you would hear, the changes, might be coming from the things that I did on the drum bus itself. But let's just listen first here. All right, so that's the sound. You would hear there isn't a lot of stereo information here. The drummer that actually tracked it was meant to send both overhead, but for some reason either the right channel of the overhead wasn't recorded. So it was gonna re-record it, but then I told him no, I think I'll be able to just use one of that, and I think that was fine for this song. My original vision was not just to make it super wide. So as you can see right here, the overhead is basically in mono, which to me is fine. I have the room and the overhead, right? With the room as well. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna bypass any reverb that we have. Okay, so the drum sound is basically coming from it's coming from individual. I'm gonna show you what I did on here, but I would like to start from the drum bus itself and show you the processing on there. So let's solo. And then it's worth noting too quickly that I'm using samples here. Usually I try to stick to the drum because the original snare drum, it's a snare drum, it sounds good. I try to stick to it, but sometimes if I can't get the sound I'm looking for, I will use samples to augment it. I don't replace it. No, I still use the original one, especially the top mic and bottom mic. I use them, but sometimes they just won't work. They need samples. So in this case, I have these samples going on here. Let me play them. That's one. I have another sample here. Bottom end right there. There is yet another one. So that's kind of a blend in between those two samples. And then here's our original snare top. Lots of bleed in there, and then snare bottom right here. And I like it, but there was just too much of this of the kick mic in there, so that's why I'm using them samples, and then the song itself calls for that sample. Let me play you the song itself. Okay, so let's go actually to the drum bus. Then we're gonna bypass the plugins on the drum bus here and then bring them back in. So that's, it sounds good. It sounds, the punch is coming out, and you hear a little bit of drive too going on. It works for this song. It's not too much. So most of the drum sound, my drum sound, comes from the parallel processing that I do. So in this case, I actually have three I'm sending all of the entire drums into some parallel chain here, which we're gonna go over. But the first on the in the chain is the VMS bypass. Sometimes I drive. Okay. And then so that's going to, I have the lift here, so just pushing some low end here, punchy, and then some shimmer here. So not really much going on. Next on the list is the Novatron fast release here, and then slow attack. This sidechain high pass filter is on. And then let's hear what this is doing. Not you trying to compress so much with this. Usually I'm targeting maybe 1 dB, or I just listen, to be honest. I'm not targeting 1 dB, no. Just listen to where it sounds okay, because I have some other processing going on. So the movement, this is compressing even more than I would normally do, to be honest. And then I have NLS going in here, drive. Not much going on. I love the NLS and the mic. The mic will be more drastic in the low end side. I think the Neve shines well in the mid range, and but the spike is pretty good. The SSL. So what I was trying to do, this was an update I made to my template too on the drum bus, is I was looking for a tape plugin to put on at the end of each one of this, and then I mean I do have some tape plugins. But then I decided to try the decapitator in there, because I know the decapitator did for this version here. I think this is modeled after the Ampex, I believe. So I'm actually driving using a lot of the drive, but I'm blending it to about maybe 15 to 20% here. So I'm going to bypass that. It's going to be subtle and you might not hear it, but since I'm only using a tiny bit in there. I mean, it's really not subtle too, right? You can hear how it's like just clamping. It's basically like compressing and controlling the transient, like, very, very well, especially on the snare drum and kick. So I can hear tightness just coming from that. So now going to the plugins I'm using for my parallel processing, I'm going to start with this one called the Drum Glue, which this is also something new that I'm using right now. I've always loved this plugin, and I think maybe not a lot of people know, because each time I think of analog and I think of warmth that we all try to get, this is this is part of those plugins that can give you that glue. To be honest, glue. So this is what I'm using for my drum glue. So what you would hear, of course, followed by that, I'm using EQ. So on this parallel processing, I'm also boosting about 60 hertz, and then 5K as well for that top. I'm not attenuating anything right here, just boosting and then boosting. So what you hear is a lot of weight, and I tell you, and when I mean weight, low end definition and tightness, it's also coming from this compressor to a lot. So let's just watch this fader right here. I'm gonna go in and out to bypass and bring it in. So it's bypass right now. All right, so that's where the compressed sound is coming from. That sounds really awesome, like the weight. And then of course I'm blending the return is around 15 dB. The next one is what I call the Fatso. I inherited these names from people. I'm not even sure where, but so that one too as well. The compressor on there is the Fairchild. So Fatso, make it fat and smooth. And then I'm following that. I'm using this by dry. It's basically I'm adding saturation. I love saturation on things. I think that's how I can get. I use them subtly, but I use a lot of them too, to be honest, on different things. But here, little here and there goes a long way. To me, that's how I get thickness, even on the vocal, whether it's the drum, that analog sound that we really like. I think one way to get it is using saturation, because that's what all of these things are, right? You're pushing into some transformers, into some other and electronics and all that. Okay, so let's hear the before and after for this. I'm compressing a lot here as well. This is my punchy sound for the drums. This is where it's coming from. This parallel processing bypass. Yeah, sounds crazy and nasty. You can hear the hi hats to the open hats too, really pumping up in volume. So those things that are low in there coming up as well. And the kick drum is pretty awesome, and snare drums. I'm gonna play that again. And I do spend some time on this, and I listen and I ask myself, do I want this? What is it doing that I like? Um, Punchy. No movement. Now it's kind of dead. Let me bring it back in. And I'm using the constant time constant here too. One will be fast, it's gonna release it, but with this one, I'm getting so much of the compressor to still hold on to them sound. It's not back to zero before the next sound hits, like the kick and snare, and that's fine. That's increasing the sustain for me and giving me a more controlled drum sound all through. So the drive was just to add an additional saturation, but the goal was the compressor itself. And then there is one more here. This is called a drum crush. This is probably, you can count it as is muted because I'm only using just a tiny bit of it. I used to use Devil Lock for that, but and I still have that on my template. But here now is the Kusha, right? Using the drive here, and this also has the compressor setting, which I'm compressing a lot. So let's hear it. So I'm gonna bring it up, the return up, just so you can hear what it's doing, but I'm only using just a little bit of it. Can hear it sounds nasty and it's almost not needed, not work. And I had to use the EQ at the beginning as well, just to control the low end because I felt it was too mushy down there. I didn't want that at all. And then also the hi-hat as well, the top cymbals, I removed that. So let me bypass the parallel processing and let's hear what the drum sounds like before and after. Okay, so that's that. I hope that was maybe helpful, and then we can just go look at the individual tracks now. I can bypass there. So my kick drum. So the kick in, bypass it. Not doing much on that one. Cutting out some frequency um, at what is this? 128. Let's hear that. That sounds doesn't sound good. This plugin doesn't have back button, does it? Yeah, that'll be good. To I like the sound of the plugin. That's why I use it. I think here usually this probably I don't use this a lot, but I'm just testing out low end to pull it up. I'm sure the kick out is giving, yeah, it's weak, so that's why I needed like sample to use here, and the sample is giving just a punch. So all three. So this has I could still push in some low end from here, even though the top end is what I'm targeting, whereby I can push some low end before. Using smack attack here to remove some of the sustain. So the goal is to get more of the attack out. So I'm using only 2 here. And then next on here is very interesting here. So compression. Okay, so that's where the sound is coming from. Usually I don't even use 1176 on the kick here. If I'm using it, it's going to be parallel. So it's very interesting seeing that here. And this might be something I did after. Maybe I'd mixed it and then I came back on I need something. So this was giving more. I'll tell you, I have to listen to the track because when it's bypassed, I kind of like it is straight, but with the compressor in there, it's moving. Just hear that. So it's sucking a lot of the low end out, but it's giving the punchy, but also kind of the compressed sound. But all together, this is what it sounds like. Big. Let me bypass it. A little clean. Now this is where a lot of the kick sound is coming from. So I'm sending all of this to my kick comp right here, and then the kick comp is also going to a parallel bus, which has the DBS 160 on there, and that's a beast, I would say. Yeah. Okay, so let's hear what this is doing here. So the first plugin here, because of my template, this is always actually on by default. So when the template is probably loaded and I'm playing the kick, this is already affecting the sound. And if I need to change anything on, I'll go in there and then change things. Probably looks like I did here for this song, because usually I'm cutting around 400, but not. So let's bypass this and bring it back in. Check the 400 side. Yeah, so nothing to cut in there. So I'm boosting 1.5 to get more attack, and 7K as well, and then 50. Followed by the SSL. Let's see what I'm doing here. So boosting around 100, boosting slightly around 3.8, and then for some reason this is set to like a fast attack. And then I'm not really compressing anything, so this must have been a mistake. I don't think I've always set to fast release. Because of the volume coming in there is super loud. Bypass it, let's bypass. So it's not really doing much at all. Those are just very minute changes. So let me bring the parallel in, and this is going to the DBX. And then after that is using this EQ. And I'm gonna just, let's hear what that is doing, because the EQ is probably to get more attack as I was missing it. There you go. So that's the kick drum sound from the So what I realized too lately too is maybe I'm trying to push the kick drum in the track, push it louder. If louder doesn't sound good, most times it's because I'm looking for, of course, balancing first, and then maybe I'm looking for like that punch or that attack, man. And the DBX 160, it's amazing what it does, right? The attack it adds to the kick drum. That's why I like it, and I wouldn't expect it, but when you listen to the pros, and I've always heard people say, yeah, DBX on drums. I never use the hardware, I don't own any. But even in this song, I'm basically using it as my kick drum, my second kick drum, basically. So it's at 0. Usually I'm blending it, it's at -11, but here it's adding to the kick drum, so I left it. And then I'm guessing this one right here, bus 6 is probably, let me see. Yes, it's sidechain stuff going to the bass. So let's listen to the processing on the kick before and after. Sorry. Okay. Right, so of course context of the mix really matters a lot. So that's that on the kick drum, snare. The main snare. So the first plugin is the silencer, right? I wanted to really get rid of, though I'm losing part of the bottom end on the snare, but I wanted to get rid of the bleed, so much of it. But still able to keep it. And then the snare drum doesn't look like I'm doing anything here at all. Okay, so not doing anything on this plugin as far as I can see. Okay, yeah, it's just there. I can actually make it inactive. And then the snare bottom as well. I'm just the silencer on there. So clean up, and then my snare sample here. I have EQ going on to control the top end there. You can hear, right? That frequency is pretty harsh. That is for sure going to like clash with vocals. Let me bypass it again. Want to keep the top end, but don't want it to be nasty. And then okay, yeah, so this no processing on this snare drums. Yeah, then this one, that's the low end. Kick drum and okay, so that's the sound right there. The hat. So this for sure has been EQ'd, maybe during tracking and all of that, right? So I already used a low cut on there. You won't hear any of those, like your super bleed, but you can still hear the snare drum, which actually sounds good, with that. And this song looked like I'm using the hi-hat in the middle, either because there wasn't really. Let me hear that. That's interesting. Yeah, all of that is the cymbals playing, and then toms. So I usually would use. Let's bypass it, and let me just bypass what we're doing there. Okay, so that's before. Okay, so I can just show you guys what I'm doing, and I'm sure I'm using VMS on or VMR. Which helps you to house a lot of plugins and don't have to worry about loading different ones. So first thing is the virtual channel, and then followed by the EQ here, boosting. I love to boost the top end on toms, and then here I'm removing actually quite a lot of frequencies, probably some annoying frequency, and that's at 3K. Let's listen. Okay, no, it's off. So let me turn it back on. Okay, so removing that. And when I remove like that, sometimes I'll be boosting my boost in a different area. So just like maybe the Poltech trick, I can boost cut around maybe 2K if that is wrong, but then I'll find another EQ to boost at 3K. It's not necessary that that frequency is bad, but some frequency is bad, but I still want to boost in that area. So let's hear. This is I'm cutting about 5 dB at 500. Okay, yeah, for sure, right? That's nasty. Let's see, how is this thing? Okay. Okay, so let's see the next plugin here. Boosting 10K, boosting 2K. I think that's an example here. So here I was cutting 3K, but here I'm boosting 2K. Removing 400, and then using iPass here. This is doing a lot. I'm gonna bypass it. Yeah. So I think that boom, 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 boom. Let's play the 400. Let's see. Yeah. But unfortunately, I can't get rid of it completely. Now, using the Neve as well, around 3 again. The same 3 I cut, I'm boosting just slightly. I love the shimmer and the thickness here, especially on toms and kick drum or vocals. They just sound nice. And this is usually my toms compressor right here. Yeah. So I'm using a slow to medium release for the same thing. I don't just want the toms to really smack really hard. I want to let the compressor hold on to it for a while because they're just coming in. increase this will help me to get the tail of the toms as well. If it was a super fast toms, boom, 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 that is consistent playing over and over again, I'll probably use like a fast release on there. And then I kept the slow attack too, because I want to keep the transient. So that's kind of just the reason behind the compressor setting right there. Same thing, and sometimes I would adjust them to taste. I mean, I don't just leave one EQ, especially this being the floor tom. Let's hear it. Boom. So a lot of low end boost there. Yeah, so it's definitely kind of dead without this processing here. So what are we doing? I'm boosting 5 dB, like 4K, removing about 8 dB at 500, same frequency. Let's hear that. Maybe just some cleanup stuff. And then I'm using the bell here to boost around 165 to get some of the low end in. 10K boost here, like was 6K boost at 4K. And I'm boosting 100 as well again. I want to hear that 400. Okay. Let me hear the 4K. All right, same thing as the old one here, same setting. This one has a slightly slower attack time, and then fairly medium release as well, and then ratio is 3:1. And then a lot of the snare, my toms, I route them to their own bus, and there, yeah, this is usually what I would do. Add some glue. And occasionally too, I'm gonna use like an EQ, equalizer. 1 second. Occasionally I'll use some equalizer to add maybe some more tone, maybe top end. So let's see what this compressor is doing first. Right, so it's always important to listen to stuff in the track, because one thing I've realized is sometimes I mix toms. When they're in solo, they actually sound really bad. But then when it's in the track, then all of a sudden it sounds good. But then you solo it, it sounds bad by itself. So it's always important to check in solo. Those toms sounds really good, and this I'm using it for gain control. It's not compressing much at all. But I would like to see the next plugin. Okay, yeah, so this is, like I said, sometimes I follow by EQ to tame some frequencies or boost if I need to. I'm gonna bypass. So coming out really nice. The low end, the top end, and the compression going on too. It's way balanced in the song. Like I said, so these are probably some frequencies I was removing, and let me solo that so you can hear before and after here. I wish this plugin Hagley have a way to undo. Well, I need to maybe update it. I'm gonna check if they have that because that's good. Okay, so that's that, right? And then I'm sending this to some verb, which is I have two verb in there. So I have like a drum room, and let's listen to the drum room. I need to crank it up. So that's that, but using just a little bit of it. And then I have this drum verb right here. And that works, right? The length of the reverb, the time of the reverb for this kind of song, because that could easily fit on the snare too. All right, so that's that on the toms. We've heard it in the track. And the other thing I was saying about the toms too is, when it's in the track, I'm keeping in mind that, yeah, the overheads are there as well, right? So, which is picking up some of the toms. So they're going to add to the tone of the toms. In this case, like I mentioned earlier, I only have one overhead, and let's just hear it. So, I mean, that's pretty good overhead too, pretty good. I think guys probably can hear the drummer in the background. I think each time he sings too or something, he's always humming something when he's recording. So either that's the way, that helps him. He might not even know he's doing that. I've noticed that. So from that overhead sound, the one thing that you can hear right away, maybe I can go to a different part of the song, but we can stay right there. You can hear some notes that aren't just great at all, that we need to cut at frequency, I mean. Like that 400-ish. The onkiness right there, right? So that's gonna be around 362. Let me bring that in. Let's hear it. So that's nasty. Also around 2.8, I'm removing about 4 dB. Because I'm using this in the middle, so I have to be careful with the frequencies that I let to sit, right? Because this overhead is not panned, it's basically in the middle. I'm using it as it doesn't matter, it's just a middle, in the middle, right? Drums does not have to be mic'd the same way all the time. Even though this was a mistake, it wasn't intentional, right? So what I'm using here on the overhead, I'm using a fast attack here and a fairly fast release. And let's hear what the compressor is doing. So needed to keep the transient down coming from the snare drum. That's what the overhead is doing. It's always clamping. The overhead picks up the snare mic more than maybe even the kick mic. I already have the snare in the middle, so I don't want things clashing. So, which is why I'm compressing a lot. So you will see that each time maybe the snare hit comes, the compressor is like compressing, like, which is crazy, like 6 dB or 10 dB. Let me remove it from fast attack. So, and then I'm pretty slamming that, right? And then also I'm rolling out a lot, about 149 here. And the reason I'm doing that is, which I can move to the next one. Oh, not done yet. Actually, let's go. Because I'm using a room mic is also in there, and I'm using that to add to the kick drum, the low end. So the overhead is going to the C4. Let me hear what that is doing, what we're trying to achieve there. Okay, it's basically to tame the high-end frequencies. This guy right here, there's a lot of sizzling stuff happening that can clutter up the mix. Not good. So we're taming that. So moving on to the room mic. I love room mics. I hope I get more room mics when I'm with the people that I use to record some of my drums. Yeah, room mics are good. So here is it. So these have been EQ'd before. All of this track have been when tracking in a way, and I'm gonna do more video on how I do that. But yeah, so I'm basically compressing, not too much, but I want to hear the compression, right? That's kind of the trick. Yeah, I'm not going crazy, but you can hear a lot of the low end. Let me play it with the kick drum. Yeah, I like it. I love it. Usually it can go crazier than that. And I think there's another track here, Drum Crush. Usually this is probably something that I created. And what I mean is maybe I had pick some instrument, then I send it to some type of compressor. Either maybe I pick the overhead, the kick drum, maybe kick drum, snare, overhead. These are kind of things I will normally pick and then artificially create this kind of track. Right, so you can hear, and that's going in the track to giving that energy. Mute it. It's gone. So it's heavily EQ'd and heavily distortion, compression, and EQ. And not sure. Let me see if I can find it. Seems like it's right there. Oh no, it's not there. I always like to keep it, but I do see. Okay, yeah, it's here, but then there is really no plugin on there. So I wanted to maybe show how that was created, but unfortunately, no. So that's usually what I would do. You can try that to kick drum and send it into a channel and just compress, add saturation, drive it, and EQ. EQ will be to remove maybe excessive low end and then excessive like mid frequencies that you know is going to clash. So that's all the drum sound basically. And let me bypass all of the effect. This, I don't think this is doing anything here. Yeah, I can just delete this track. Now bring in the effect on the snare drum, the reverb. So that's it, and I'm going to add maybe like the percussions too, so you can hear the percussion in the track. I can show that in a different video. And then play the entire track. All right, so I hope this tutorial was helpful, just to show you the process of my approach of mixing drums. Hope you like it and enjoy it. Please don't forget to subscribe and like this video. Okay, bye bye. Thank you.